On this Friday night, the U.S. president confirms he's hitting Canada with hefty tariffs.
On the edge of a trade war.
Major global trade war.
Canada's ready to retaliate.
Tariffs.
Tariffs.
Tariffs. Tariffs.
Tariffs.
And we'll just see what happens.
That was a lot. My name is Jeff Dix, and I am the owner and sole proprietor of Limestone Lures. Some of you know me, many of you don't, and that's okay. There's been a lot of talk about tariffs lately, and the changes are coming into effect tomorrow, at least from the American perspective. Almost certainly, and immediately, Canada will implement retaliatory tariffs, I guess. I don't really know. What does that mean for you as customers of Limestone Lures? Well, the short answer is, right now, nothing. As you know, a lot of the raw materials that I use to make Limestone Lures come from the United States. So American tariffs on Canada don't affect me as much, but when Canada implements its tariffs, then my raw materials are going to go up in price. Not from the manufacturer, but up in price at the border when I import them into Canada. The extra price will go to the Canadian government, I suppose. Fortunately, I have a surplus of raw materials that I bought long before any of this tariff business was even a thought. So right now, no change to my prices. And hopefully by the time that I have to buy more, this tariff business will be managed a little bit better, I guess. Maybe there won't be any tariffs by that time, or maybe they'll be lower, or we don't really know what the tariffs are gonna look like fully until they actually get announced tomorrow from the American perspective, and I'm assuming shortly thereafter from the Canadian perspective. But I do want to be transparent with all of you, especially those of you who've purchased Limestone Lures, whether you're in Canada or the United States, doesn't matter. I appreciate both of you. I've put a lot of time and effort into optimizing my little supply chain for what I do on a small scale for Limestone Lures to try and make sure that I don't have to raise my prices. And this was before any of the tariffs and any of that stuff. Whether it's inflation or a poor economy, my biggest goal is to make sure that I don't have to raise my prices. And so far, I've been successful at that. I believe that my products are very reasonably priced, and I want to keep them that way because I believe in quality and I believe in affordability. And I want to keep that balance in my products. That's really important to me. What I can't promise is that I will never raise my prices. I'm in a fortunate position where I don't actually rely on Limestone Lures to heat my house and feed my family. I have my employment with the Canadian Armed Forces for that, at least for now. So I'm actually in a bit of a unique situation where if I have to take a little bit of a hit in revenue by not raising prices, even though my raw materials are costing me a little bit more, for the time being, I can stomach that, actually. So even if the tariffs are still in effect when the time comes for me to have to purchase raw materials, my plan is to still not raise my prices. But I don't know what the tariffs are going to look like when the time comes for me to import my plastic, which is the bulk of my expenses. That's what I use the most. The colorant and the flakes they're not cheap, but they don't get used as quickly as the plastic. The plastic is the biggest part of my raw material expense, and that's what I use the most of. We'll see, is I guess what I'm saying. My plan is to do everything I can to try and not raise my prices. That's my promise, to do everything I can to avoid it. Unfortunately, I can't predict the future, and I don't know what the future is going to lie for the economy and this trade war that has been pushed on us, both Americans and Canadians. I don't think any of us wanted this, but here we are. We're in it. We got to deal with it. It is what it is. The bottom line is, if you're a Limestone Lures customer, you don't have to worry about price hikes right now. I'm not an economist. I know what tariffs are. I know how they work. And what I'm not sure is when or how they get paid. And I'm trying to think of it from the perspective of my customers south of the border in the United States. You guys are in a pretty fortunate position as well when you're importing things from Canada, because the dollar, the US dollar versus the Canadian dollar, is so strong. But I think it's important to remember that while things like buying fishing lures from Canada and importing them into the States from a consumer perspective might not seem like the price is that much more, even if you have to pay 25% more, you're paying 25% of like, $6 or $7 per bag. It's not that much for you guys because of the currency exchange. But I think it's important for us small businesses in Canada that import direct to consumer to the States that it's not just fishing lures that they have to pay the tariffs on. And the tariffs of all the other things from Canada going into the United States are going to go up. So our consumers there are going to pay more for a lot of things, not just fishing lures. And then vice versa for those of us in Canada and our materials and all the things that we buy from the United States, it's all going to go up in price for us when we implement our own tariffs. I guess all that is to say, it's more important now than ever to buy local. Whether you're in Canada or the United States, there are so many amazing small bait makers in the United States, and there are so many amazing small bait makers in Canada. There's no shortage of options. So if you're in Canada and big name brands prices start getting jacked up because of the import duties and tariffs and all that other stuff that retailers have to pay to import those things, the increase in price that you may or may not have to pay to buy local is going to be a lot smaller. And that money will go further for a smaller bait maker than it would for the bigger companies. Believe me, if you decide 1 or 2 times to shop local and buy from a small bait maker versus like Rapala or X-Zone or Strike Master or Berkeley, I mean, it's not going to hurt them too much. Hey, I'm a small bait maker and I still buy Rapala lures and X-Zone lures and Berkeley lures for stuff that I don't make myself. Nobody can make everything. So you have to buy bits and pieces of what you want from lots of different manufacturers. Anyways, I don't want to drone on too much about this, but I wanted to say that whether you're in Canada or whether you're in the United States, I appreciate your business and thank you so much for supporting Limestone Lures. So until the next time I see you, tight lines, and don't forget, put more fish in the net or on the ice with Limestone Lures.